All right, here we are live. Better late than never. Look at the shirt this guy's got on. I feel terrible. I feel terrible now, but I do have it. It's right here. Right here. This is a shirt. But I didn't.
I came prepared, Pete.
You came prepared. I love it. That's beautiful. Yeah, right on. Right on. So I got the banner going down the bottom if anybody wants to pick up their own shirts for Papa Pete shirts or for Go Game Go shirts. So right on. Thanks for joining us today. Who we got? We got Caper Dave in. Looks like some of the same guys that stopped in for a few minutes when I talked last week about just that we were going to be delayed a week and such, and so now we're finally back. Right, Jeff?
We're back. Yes, thank goodness.
Right on. You're happy to be back?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is. Help me along here, Jeff, but this is basically, we're kind of using this as an excuse just to get together and chat and see where the chat takes us. We're focused on the chat and responding to it. We have a Hey Crow, and we have just a theme, whether it's wrestling or some video game thing or retro adventures. We decided to talk about everything from Jeff and I got talking about this a couple weeks ago. We talked about some of the roadside attractions we saw when we were kids that haven't been, that aren't around anymore, and even bigger theme parks and such, and things that we all love to go back and visit. I know that they're all really popular on YouTube, theme parks, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen guys like what the place is he called? But he travels around the country just going to these roadside attractions and such. And anyway, but we're also both huge fans of old time wrestling.
Oh yeah.
So, why don't you start off? We're going to tell you a little bit first about some of our history with watching wrestling when we were younger. We'll both sort of go on and back to the early days, right up through where we are with it today.
Well, you got one of the guys right there on the right there. Harley Race was a big name here in St. Louis because St. Louis was a big spot for NWA wrestling. So, we had Harley Race, Ric Flair, Von Erichs came through.
Yeah.
And the one thing I was telling you about in St. Louis, Bruiser Brody was King Kong Brody.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, he was Bruiser Brody. Because the first time I started watching other wrestling, when he showed up in a different territory, I was like, why are they calling him Bruiser Brody? That's not his name. But I found out why. He changed his name for the NWA in that territory out of respect for Dick the Bruiser.
Okay.
He dropped the Bruiser part from his name because he didn't want anyone getting confused with Dick the Bruiser. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do. Did
you just research that? Because we talked about it last week. I don't remember you telling me that.
No, I just found out.
Okay.
Just a few days ago, I was looking up King Kong Brody, and he came up as Bruiser Brody, and then because I wanted to see what they had to say about it, and they did mention that. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool.
No, that is real. That's respect. That's a sign of respect, right?
Oh yeah. Sam Muchnick, yeah, he was the head guy of the NWA for years and years.
What I got looking at said that it was him and Hardy that owned it. We're talking about Hardy. I got to look it up. I got I got stuff sitting here with me and stuff to show my wrestling fanatics here.
And I just read something else about Harley Race. They said that the WWF McMahon, Vince McMahon, he tried. There was a big, I think it was the first Starrcade maybe, where Harley Race was the champion of the NWA, and he was supposed to lose to Ric Flair in the championship, and that was like a passing of the torch. And but before it happened, Vince McMahon came to him and said he offered him, I think, $250,000 to not wrestle in that event and come to the WWF. And Race turned him down. He just said he couldn't do that because the NWA guys were the ones who built his career. So, but he ended up going there later on.
Yeah,
his career, but because that would have been a real screw job right to them.
You said he went there when he finally did go there, and like there I get go show some of the stuff that I had. Like I used to get into websites and stuff and mail pictures for autographs and such. So I got Harley Race was one of the ones that was like always responded to people's autograph requests. just a really good guy, right? That way, he understood what was great about fans, and he, that's the old card set. I got a card set, and I just blew that one up. So that's actually we get to see this version of Harley Race today.
That was another odd thing when he went to WWF. He went as the King or King Harley Race, because that was something I guess just for WWF, because I don't ever remember seeing him do that.
It was, and I'm trying to think of how I can remember seeing how that all started. It happened through a tournament, not the King of the Ring. It was before the King of the Ring, but there's always been like kings in wrestling and such, and they had some sort of match, and he got crowned the king of a tournament, of some like smaller tournament, and that just brought in the gimmick of being King Harley Race, which he carried through. He had that pretty much till he left. I think nobody else took it. And when he actually got done with them, that was when Haku took it over, King Haku. Briefly, and then they sort of faded away for a while until it was the actual King of the Ring, which brought it back.
Remember Jerry Lawler?
Oh yeah,
the King Jerry Lawler. He ended up doing WWF announcing.
Yeah, and he brought that right in with him. That was almost like he couldn't. He had to be the king when he got there. Yeah. So what do you watch? Like, how far along did you watch, and did you follow it?
Well, during the 70s and probably mid 80s, I watched the local show here, Wrestling at the Chase, which is all NWA. And then with cable in the mid 80s, we started getting, we got WOR, so I started watching WWF.
Yeah.
When I first tuned in, Bob Backlund was champion, and Wild Samoans were there, and the Moondogs, and a whole cast of characters. And also Texas wrestling was really popular. It was, I think that showed up on a local channel. I guess it was like a syndication thing.
Mm-hmm. But
that was all Von Erichs and Fabulous Freebirds, Junkyard Dog, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So wait, the first WrestleMania was what, like 86, 85?
85.
85.
Yeah. So
I followed that until probably the early 90s.
Okay.
And then towards the latter part of the 90s, I think I told you there was somebody at my work who was selling these little gadgets you hook to your cable box, and it unlocked everything. So
I
wasn't watching wrestling at the time, but there was a pay-per-view every week at that time. So I was like, what the heck? So I started watching it. And so I didn't know most of the guys anymore, but it was pretty fun watching some of the new stuff.
That back when WCW was going and WWF, ECW, they were all like every weekend there was one of these groups having a pay-per-view. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a constant.
Yeah. I don't remember not watching wrestling. I mean, when I grew up, when I was really young, like I'm talking 75, 76, there was a thing called Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling, which that was the old territory days, long before WWF existed. It was WWF, which was the New England, New York state territory. Okay. So that was what I had the most history with. I can remember because where I live, my channels were out of Moncton and St. John, New Brunswick, and Bangor, Maine. So I would get the WWF in Bangor, Maine, at like 12:15 on Saturday nights. I can remember it was a late night thing to stay up and watch wrestling. And then once in a while, they'd have it on like Sunday afternoon as well. And Atlanta Grand Prix Wrestling was always on Saturday afternoons, and they toured around the Maritimes in the summer. And it was actually a pretty important territory, which had all of the champs, especially from WWF, came up through for tours because, frankly, they love coming up here on vacation. So they come up here for a 2 or 3 week tour and make some money in the summer, right? So I always watched that right up through, I'd say, when WWF started, and the Vince McMahon we know now, Vincent K. McMahon, took it over from his father and basically screwed over all the territories by going national. That was when I was right in high school, and I didn't watch it as much when I was in high school as I did later on and before that. So I didn't watch it a whole lot about the time where Hulk Hogan became champion and such, but I watched enough or heard enough about it to keep, because I was always interested in it. I remember Hulk Hogan on WWF when he first came over as a bad guy, and he was wrestled. He was still Hulk Hogan, but he wrestled as a bad guy, and like it seems to me he had blue tights, and Fred Blassie was his manager.
Yeah, he didn't have his shtick down yet.
No. he was the bad guy. You know, him and Greg Valentine were the two big bad guys coming in at that time. Like, I'm talking 80, 81, 82. It was all on the heels. Vincent K. Okay, the Vince, who's there now. He had a really good rapport with Vern Gagne up in Minnesota, the AWA. So a lot of the top stars, because AWA was awesome out of Minnesota. Great wrestlers up there.
That was huge. They had all kind of wrestlers up there.
Like, somebody was in here last week in the somebody messaged me about the show, asked if we'd be talking about the AWA any, and I said I'm really no expert on the AWA at all.
Didn't Hogan start there?
Hogan started there. Hogan started at a couple different places, but he went to the AWA to sort of become big, to refine himself and become big. I think he started in like Florida or something as just a guy off the beach, or something like that. And so somebody again, well, there you go. WWF come out of Capital Wrestling in the Washington, D.C. area. Has Lance on there, without a doubt. But when I watched it, like I say, I even went to a show in the late 70s in Bangor. Saw like Dino Bravo, Chief Jay Strongbow, a lot of real classic guys. Ox Baker was there. It was pretty cool.
I just watched a clip of Ox Baker on Price is Right.
He was on Price is Right?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
They called him down. He actually won a bid. He got up there. I couldn't believe it. It was so strange. Seeing Ox Baker on Price is Right. Huh. What was Hogan? Hogan had a nickname before he became like famous.
Lance just typed it in there. Lance says that, and he said this last week when we did that when I was on there for a few minutes. Hogan started in Florida as Sterling Golden. Yeah, wow. But was really, that was nothing. He really didn't develop till he went to AWA, and when he started to develop, Vincent McMahon brought him in to the big show, and that was where he became the champion, taking it over. I mean, they transitioned the belt with the Iron Sheik from Backlund to Hogan. Backlund had it for 6 years. I can remember watching Backlund wrestle a lot of matches through like late 70s, early 80s, and he never lost.
You know, he was the kind of the good guy, but he could fight dirty if he wanted to.
Well, he became evil at the end. Like in the 90s, he came back. He sort of had that crazy shtick, right? That was his gimmick. But so anyway, so I got back into it about time that WrestleMania started. And I watched it quite faithfully. Now, that being said, yeah, you could watch some stuff on TV. I still watch Atlanta Grand Prix. They had that going right up through, being a small thing. Probably until the early 90s it went on. My father, the reason I can remember that in the it went up through the 90s because they used to have Raw. Remember, it wasn't the big Monday night thing at the time. It was on a smaller cable network in the States. And in the late 90s, my father loved Atlanta Grand Prix wrestling and would watch it and talk about it and stuff. And I couldn't get him to watch WWF for nothing. And there, usually it was our local channel would have an hour of WCW, an hour of WWF, and an hour of Atlanta Grand Prix. And probably the Atlanta Grand Prix was first. And my father would turn it off after that. He wouldn't even watch the rest of it. Oh, that's not wrestling. Atlanta Grand Prix is real wrestling. It was these guys from up the road that were pounding on each other. It was great though. Don't get me wrong. It was entertaining as hell, really. Yeah. So, and I've always been a fan. I loved it right up through. You talk about the shticks there where you could get the different periods where you could get the pay-per-views for free. Of course, up here, a big thing was when you could get direct TV for free and stuff like that. So I watched all the pay-per-views up through, and then I've always had the networks and got the pay-per-views. And so I watched it right up through really about 2010, 2012. And I've really let up the last little while. I had the WWE network up until about 4 or 5 months ago. And what I found is that it was,
How is that?
It's good. I mean, it's lots of stuff on it, but it's become like, much MTV was music videos and it fades away into other shows. And all of a sudden it's like there ain't no music videos. Well, it seemed like WWE Network was big on all these other stupid shows. I just cared about the wrestling. I only wanted WWE Network to basically go online and watch old pay-per-views. Yeah, I was going to say, do they show all the old stuff? Because didn't they buy the AWA? I think they have all the rights to their stuff. They have the rights to pretty much everything now. You could log on with a membership and watch a lot of these old pay-per-views, but I think they rotated them. So the entire library wasn't always there and available. It was like Netflix. It's available for 6 months, then it's gone for a year, and it's back. And yeah, but like the old territories, they have so much of the old. WWF bought so much of this old territory stuff, so much of the the footage and such, like who lands the territories were a great time to train talent. Absolutely. McMahon rated the best talent and time slots from local channels. Yes, he did. And just took it all over. And yeah, Jeff Davis is right. The WWE Network is going on to Peacock May 15th in the U.S. only, because we do not get Peacock here in Canada, right?
So in the U.S., is the WWE Network not going to exist anymore?
It is gone. Not going to exist anymore.
Oh,
the rest of the world is going to be still the WWE Network. It's going to be a $5 add-on for the Peacock Network, which is really a good deal, I think. But trouble is
that I know my wife's a huge wrestling fan. She'd love if I did that.
Yeah. Well, but just think, Celia, you can watch wrestling 16, 18 hours a day.
Lucky me.
Oh, I may have come close sometimes watching it on YouTube. Just find, because you've had an interesting match on YouTube, and then you look down below and the suggestions is another one's like, oh my gosh, I remember this one.
It's a never-ending
3 hours later
rabbit hole that you'll never get out of. You start going down that. And the thing about it is, you can do it with each and every territory in existence. You can do that.
Yeah, I was telling you, somebody uploaded a bunch of, was it Oregon? I think wrestling. Someone had, like, tapes, and they'd be like 2 hours long. These videos on YouTube, and we were just talking about them the other day too. Playboy.
Buddy Rose.
Buddy Rose.
Playboy Buddy Rose. Yeah.
Yeah, he was wrestling up there on the one I was watching. I was like, wow, I remember him.
If I'm not mistaken, I've seen Playboy Buddy Rose on WWF television in the 90s or 80s or 90s. And I also believe I've seen him wrestle here in the local arena at one time or another for Atlanta Grand Prix. These guys went all over, right? Wherever they could make some money.
I told you, but I only went to one wrestling match, and I was in high school.
Yeah.
And we had I had dinner with the whole family, my dad and brother-in-law. We were sitting around, and someone said, hey, there's a big wrestling match down at Kiel Auditorium here. Want to go? And I was like, sure. So we all went. I don't know why we went, because I think I'm the one that was into wrestling. But I think I told you it was I think it was David Von Erich wrestling Ric Flair for the championship.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
They had like a 20-man wrestle royal. We had to throw the guy over the ring, the top rope.
Yep.
And
those are always fun.
And Andre the Giant was there. So my only time going to a wrestling match, Andre the Giant was there. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually saw him once before. We were picking up my uncle from the airport, and this is back in the day where there was no security. You just walk right to where they would let the people out. And we were waiting for him. And as we were waiting for him, Cowboy Bob Orton walks out. And I was like, that's Cowboy Bob Orton. And as soon as I said that, here comes Andre the Giant right behind him. I was like, oh my gosh. And then my uncle came out, and I was telling about it, and he goes, oh, I didn't even see those guys. It's like, you didn't see Andre the Giant? How do you miss Andre the Giant on a plane? Well, I guess exactly. We were in first class.
Well, he was the one that was taking up 4 seats.
He was the reason the plane was like this.
Well, I told you the story about little old Moncton, New Brunswick up here, Atlanta Grand Prix, and about all the stars coming up through. And my father-in-law was about 5'7", 5'8", small guy. And he said he was at the bar one day. This is the 60s, or it would be the 70s, I'd say. And he was at the bar one day, and he turned around, looked right into a guy's hip, looked straight up like this, and it was Andre the Giant standing beside him at the bar. It was like, oh my God, but these guys would be in town and they'd be around, and it was just kind of neat, Yeah.
He was enormous.
Crow has a rare condition where he can't see giants. Well, I don't know what that condition could possibly be. Yeah.
I remember watching when I was really young, I remember seeing Andre the Giant wrestle, but he would wrestle like 2, 3, 4 guys at a time.
Yes.
They'd be they were the guys that always lost. And so
the jobbers.
He'd get them all in a corner, and then he'd just like back into them and just start squishing them all. That was just hilarious.
Well, yeah. Speaking of Andre, do you believe that I collect things? I don't know if you
do.
I do, and
oh yeah,
I've got there to really get at it. The sort of in that room here. Okay, in that room right there, there are a lot of wrestling tapes, DVDs, et cetera, et cetera. And so On that line, and then talking about Andre, I sort of lost my train of thought. Of course, I had to have this. So today, let's look at WrestleMania IV a little bit. You guys, do you remember? Did you see this at all when it was live? Like back in the when was it? Have you ever seen it? The whole thing?
I've never seen the whole thing since I knew we were watching. I couldn't remember if I seen it or not, but
yeah.
And I couldn't find like the whole thing on YouTube. I did find one where these guys were just commenting. They would play parts of like every match, and they were just kind of commenting.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I was watching, and because Andre and Hulk Hogan were matched up in that one.
Yeah, that was their third match. In WrestleMania IV is their third match.
Was WrestleMania 1 the one where Hogan beat Iron Sheik?
No, that was in 1983 in Madison Square Garden. I think it was in Madison Square Garden. Anyway, it was 83.
It was before WrestleMania. Wow, I didn't realize.
Yes, it was before WrestleMania. There actually was no heavyweight championship match in the very first WrestleMania.
Really?
It was the headline for that one was Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff with Cowboy Bob Orton against Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, sided by Jimmy Superfly Snuka. So Mr. T's big wrestling debut was the thing, and that was all a big ploy by McMahon because he wanted the mainstream media, right? So he brought in Mr. T, and every friggin' network broadcast, picked up the news. They had them all on all the talk shows. Johnny Carson, David Letterman around then, but anyway, all the mainstream talk shows and stuff picked them all up, and it was very intentional bringing him in like that. So yeah,
it was genius move right there.
Oh, absolutely. Hulk was already a champion, had been for a couple years by that point. Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you why we picked WrestleMania 4, guys, is I don't know if you realize it or not, but WrestleMania 4 was billed as being at the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I was kind of surprised about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Remortgaged his house. Vince did bet the absolute farm on that, Dave. If it hadn't gone over, he'd be broke. There would be no WWF as we know it today, or WWE or whatever like that. But it went over. It went over huge. He was smart. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. He did what he had to do.
That's amazing because he's a billionaire now, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Anyway, like I was saying, so they actually demolished the Trump Plaza just 2 weeks ago. So it's sort of when Jeff and I had talked about doing a show just to have a chat, and just whether it's about video games one week or wrestling. We both love wrestling, so that's what we decided to do, along with video games and other things. And just thought with that building being demolished recently, that it would be a good thing to pick up. So I did a little video we could talk through here.
No,
if it works. There we go. Go ahead.
I saw a video, and someone was saying that WrestleMania didn't take place in the casino or the hotel.
Right, because if you look at that picture right there, see the building beside it? That is the historic Atlantic City Arena complex, and that's where it was actually held.
Yeah.
Okay. When you see the demolition,
this was that building that had like a round top on it, right?
That's right, and we're going to see it again here in a second.
I was just reading about this Jim Crockett paying $1 million for the TBS time slot from WWF.
Yeah, I think that was. I mean, we're talking earlier. Like all I could see at the wrestling. This is such a neat clip. I couldn't believe it. So you see clearly where the event was held. The big arena next door to it, but that was Trump Plaza right there. This is such a cool freaking shot. Look at the people way up top on the beach watching that.
Yeah, when they demolish buildings, it's always cool. Did you ever see that clip of I think it was the Kingdome being demolished up in Seattle?
I didn't. Oh,
and some local people had a shot. They had their camera set up, and just before it blew up, this bus pulled up and parked like right in front of their camera.
Oh my God.
Kingdome came down, and after it was down, then the bus moved. So they missed the whole thing.
Oh my God. That's
crazy. Bad timing.
I cry. Oh yeah. Yeah, so you see the arena clearly there too. But that's where their WrestleMania 4 and 5 were held there. Yeah.
Where was the first one in Detroit? Or was it the second?
First one was at Madison Square Garden.
Yes. Which one was Detroit? Because didn't they have like 80,000 people or something crazy?
That was WrestleMania 3. It was held at the Pontiac Silverdome, which again is another. Well, I guess you could say, okay, Trump Plaza's gone down where WrestleMania 4 and 5 were. Well, no, the building that they was in is actually still there.
Yeah.
But it's the namesake of it's gone. Whereas the Pontiac Silverdome, there's some amazing friggin'. We got to look at WrestleMania 3 sometime too. We get on here because that's a fabulous show. But that building, I don't think it's been demolished yet, but it's been ripped to shreds. There's nothing left of the Pontiac Silverdome.
Oh, it's still up?
Oh yeah, but it's in tatters. It's the roof collapsed, everything. Yeah, so I can remember when WrestleMania 4 come on, I was right into it, and I had seen WrestleMania 3 on tape, and of course I wanted to find some place to watch this, right? Well, you can't there was no pay-per-view. If you're lucky, you could find a bar that showed it. That was the only way you're going to see it in closed caption, or what's it called? Was that what it's called? Not closed caption. What's it called? Closed circuit.
Closed circuit, yeah.
A closed circuit venue. And I can remember I was living in Fredericton going to school with a bunch of guys, no money whatsoever. And we found an advertisement in the paper said they were showing it at the Army base about 15 miles away. And a buddy and I actually went to the mess on the Army base and watched this tournament. And the weird part was that we got there, we paid our $5 to get in or whatever, and they couldn't get the sound to work. So there was no sound. All we could do was watch it. So, yeah, but I watched every bit of it because, I knew what was going on. I was following it then. And then to see it again, you had to wait for the videotape to come out. And I can remember when the videotape came out. I'm going to share it. Here's a picture of it. It was a double cassette that flipped open. And when you flipped it open, Hulk Hogan was in the middle and his head popped out. So this is what I'm going to show right now. That's the videotape. That's it flipped open with Hulk Hogan's head would fold down inside. Yeah, the head would fold down inside there. You sort of see the seam right here. And that's what it looked like when it was closed.
That's quite the
sight. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Only $39.95 for that cassette.
Yeah, and that's $1988 or $1989. Quite a bit more than today. Oh, that's $100 now. Wow, you would never dream of buying the thing. I swear. They always got the. Speaking of Andre, of course, this is the third time they fought, right?
Who was Hogan and Andre looking at? They're looking at someone off camera.
My assumption is they're probably just there are probably 100 cameras out there, and they're just looking at a different one.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Man, look how tall Hogan is. He's not extremely that much shorter than.
I'm going to back it up there one now. Andre was billed at what 7'4", and Hogan was billed at like 6'9". We'll probably take. He might be 7 foot probably, and he's probably 6'8", 6'7". They always exaggerated. Always exaggerated. Put it this way: I don't think Donald Trump's 6'5". So he's not 6'9".
No, I think he's like 6'2", 6'3". So yeah. Look at the size of Andre's hand on Trump's shoulder. It takes up to the entire shoulder.
That's like an infamous scene in the pay-per-view itself as Bob Euchre's running around chasing Vanna White. He's one of the celebrities. And he goes up and he finds Andre, and he's doing an interview with Andre, and Andre right down clamps him on the shoulder just like that. And then when they finish up, do I get your foot off my shoulder?
That's the one where Andre grabs him by the throat, isn't it? Like this,
exactly.
Yeah. His tongue out.
Yeah.
I know. That's like, why was Vanna White there? Such a weird thing, but
it
that's
didn't
all part
really
of the mainstream stuff.
So go ahead. The first match was the 20-man over-the-top battle royal, and this is where we got to see everybody.
This is my favorite part, though. George Animal Steel never gets in the ring.
He's in this picture. So there he is right there. See, there's his picture right here. You
on
can see
the outside, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he never got in the ring, and every so often he would like grab somebody and pull them out. Then at some point, the ref just came up to him and said, "You got to leave," and he just kind of put his head down and walked away. I'm wondering, do you think that was all planned, or do you think George Steele just decided to do that on his own? Such a weird thing to have him there, but not even participate. He's just like outside the ring.
You want to guess? My guess is he probably had something bothred him, hurt. But he's making an appearance. So this is a great way to do it without actually putting him at any risk, right? Because, I mean, the man was 65 there.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Well, 89. He's probably 50 or 55. He's not young.
50s. He looks like he's wearing a sweater.
I know. Try to type a comment here at the same time. There we go. All right, so that one was all put down. Look at all the different guys there, like the guys that you remember. The best part of having one of these to get some of the guys in that you aren't otherwise going to see. Nikolai Volkov, Jim Neidhart right there, and
Jim.
This is kind of morbid, but I always look at it, watch these old pay-per-views now, and think, okay, who's alive, who's dead, you know? And I mean, you look at there's Harley Race right there.
Yeah,
you see that's Harley. Ron Bass, he's gone. Harley Race is gone. George is gone. That's Jacques Raymond Rougeau, that one. Danny Davis is going over the top rope, the back. Remember him? He was the evil referee.
Yes.
And Nikolai. And, of course, there's Hillbilly Jim and Bad News Brown. And I believe that's Brett right there. That is my favorite wrestler of all time. I wasn't a big fan until mid-late 90s, but he really was a good wrestler. Bret Hart, yeah. So it all dwindled down to it was these two, and who was the last one with them?
Oh, because they teamed up on him. Who was it?
Yes, they did.
Oh.
Who knows, Jack? Do you remember? I don't know who's seen this or not. I get looking here. I don't even see it. Obviously, it was one of the good guys.
Look at that. Hillbilly Jim started as Harley Davidson in the Tennessee territory.
So those two friggin' teamed up. Now, a little bit back history of that. I don't know. Do you remember Bad News Brown at all?
Not really.
He came in, and he was big in Calgary Stampede Wrestling. So when the Harts come down, they had a lot of influence. Stu Hart had a lot of influence on Vince McMahon. And he would train these guys in the dungeon. He would send them to Vince. Vince knew they were getting, wrestlers who could cope. Bad News Brown was his name was Bad News Allen in Calgary Stampede. But that's why he's with Brett. See, these two had worked together in Stampede tons before they ever got to the WWF. So,
Bad News Allen, that just doesn't flow like Bad News Brown does it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It doesn't. So, and then of course he suckered him with that was very politically correctly called the Ghetto Blaster.
That's right. What a finishing move, the Ghetto Blaster.
So he smokes Brett, tosses him out over the top rope, and Brett destroys the trophy. So, the neat part about that, though, is that in my mind, and it might not have happened instantaneously, but it's that point right there that Bret Hart sort of turned from bad guy to a face, right? From a heel to a face, because they're all cheering him. He got double crossed. He smashed the trophy, and he was all of a sudden a good guy, just sort of like Brutus the Barber in WrestleMania 3, right? You're always a heel, and then always something happens, and they turn you into a face. I think that was very deliberate. I think that is the point. That is the point where he turned and meant a lot to his career. So it's actually, even though this is the opening match and an otherwise, different type of pay-per-view, this is really a pretty important moment. That's my opinion.
What an opening match for a show.
Yeah, really. Look at this one. Lance saying, Bad News Brown competed in the Olympics in judo. Wow. Yes, I had forgotten all about that. That's right, Lance. Good memory. I had heard that before, but never would have thought of that again in a million years. Really neat. But he was an athlete. He passed away, Bad News Allen, at about in his 50s, I believe. He's been gone for quite a few years now. I can't remember exactly when, but I don't like I say it's sort of morbid. I think of that when I think of wrestling. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh, some of these wrestlers die so early.
Yeah, exactly, and that's probably part of the reason that I look at it that way. You know, it's like I always watch these matches. Okay, which ones are alive? Which ones are dead? There's whole websites with percentages of different pay-per-views that have passed away, and not very many of them are passing away in their 80s. You know what I mean? They're 40s and 50s.
That's what makes Ric Flair amazing. He's still kicking.
Yeah, he's had some troubles, but
yeah,
he's doing all right. All right, next match was Ted DiBiase versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And
look at Jim Duggan's face.
Oh, I know. I gotta get my other one here now too.
The $1 million man.
Personal favorite picture of Hacksaw right here. That was WCW, and he did. Can't really see an autograph picture of him. Team Canada. He joined Team Canada for a while in WCW. But he's another one. He's out touring around. He's doing really well. I think he still goes in the ring once in a while at special events and stuff like that. But he does the card signing shows and such. He's really big with the fans. He's a good guy. Ted DiBiase got in the ministry, but he still goes around to these conventions and stuff as well if they ever start having them again.
I think didn't he start in the NWA? I thought I remember him being like the rookie of the year in the NWA.
Ted DiBiase?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Going way back.
He's down south somewhere. I can't remember exactly, but yes, you're absolutely right.
He wrestled in St. Louis quite a bit. Remember, sometimes I heard him called Ted DiBiase along with DiBiase. But that was, really early on. I guess people didn't know how to pronounce his name.
There we go. Capers got it right there. Hey-oh. So, that was not much of a match. They banged around for a few minutes, and then Andre tripped Duggan, and DiBiase won, and that was the end of it. So, Oklahoma territory, the Lance saying right here. DiBiase and Duggan were huge in the Oklahoma territory. That makes perfect sense right there.
So this is one where guys kept coming back and wrestling if they won a match, right?
That's right. This was a 14-man tournament with Hogan and Andre getting a bye for the championship with a few other matches. So this is basically the first match of the tournament. So I'll pick her up a little bit here now. Let's go to the next.
That's the only WrestleMania that was set up like that?
I think so. I can't recall anything else off the top of my head.
Very strange.
Like King of the Ring's often been set up like that, but not WrestleMania itself. And it was all a result of Friday night main event, or they just called it the main event. It was Saturday night's main event. Then when they had the 5 different ones, so I think there was a first one they ever had actually on a Friday night main time, prime time NBC, and that was the one where the Earl and Richie Hebner. We only knew there was one of them before this moment, and they stole the title from Hogan. Andre gave it right over to Ted DiBiase, and they declared it void, so they had this tournament.
Was it a classic moment there, the evil twin referee?
It was actually, I can still remember, I was in my 3rd year university, and I was living off campus, but I was at my old residence that night, and there had to have been 50 guys in the room watching it, probably on like a 27-inch TV, right? Nothing like what we have nowadays, but that was a big TV for then. And you want to talk about hooping and hollering and people having a good time, and frankly, a little upset over the whole thing right across the country. It was really something else. But yes, I do remember that, and that was big news. I can't wait any longer, guys. We're going to have a Garrison Juicy IPA.
Juicy IPA.
Which I'm only going to have one tonight because that puppy right there is 8%.
Dang.
But it's a real opaque citrusy IPA, but it's really good. But they're strong. It's a nice sip of beer when you're just having one. All right, so let's move on a little bit. We've got a few matches to look at.
Hey, John Riggs is in the chat room.
Hey, John.
And John Riggs is in a wrestling game that's out right now.
That's right. That comes to the Amico, too.
Yeah, it's what, PC only right now. They delayed the consoles for I think a couple weeks or so.
Right on.
So hopefully we'll get our Switch version in another couple weeks.
Yeah, I did not pre-order yet. The pre-orders are extended on it, right?
Probably. I think it's $5 cheaper or $10 cheaper. I can't remember. Yeah, I would. Yeah, if you're gonna get it, I'd go ahead and pre-order.
Well, there you go. John is in Washington. So you were talking about that stuff that you were watching online from Oregon, 2-hour tapes from Oregon.
Oh yeah,
that would be. He might be familiar with those territories up there because I don't know if each state would have their own in that, or it'd be like a Northwestern territory, or what the scoop is.
Now on here you got Don Morocco. He was one of my favorite wrestlers. I thought he was pretty cool.
I was going to mention that he's, I really didn't see him wrestle a whole lot except for up to this point. You talk about your favorite match is the Snuka Morocco match.
Morocco Snuka steel cage match where Snuka dives off the cage. I remember seeing that when they first showed it, and it's still my favorite match. It was something else. Morocco, this was, I think, a few years, I would say a few years after his prime, but he was in really good shape in this match. He was really quick and running around.
He didn't really wrestle a whole lot after this that I found that I remember. He had been Intercontinental Champion. Who was? I think that's Tito Santana got it from him, I think. And anyway, he had won different championships, never the big one, but in WWF, of course, he went through the territories and stuff like that, like all these guys did. Pretty much everybody at this stage had gone through the territories as well, like even up to WrestleMania 5 or 6 before it really became just WWF homegrown.
And I always loved the feud of Don Morocco and Jimmy Snuka.
Okay, yeah. See, and I didn't see any of that. I did not see that. I had no idea it even happened.
They had some classic matches.
Probably early 80s, right?
Oh, yeah, like 82, 83. That's
remember I said I sort of, from when I was in high school, I sort of had a lull where I really didn't follow it as much as I did earlier on. Even more so later, even more so like in the 90 through 2010. But
John Riggs mentioned this is when Morocco had superstar Billy Graham as his mentor. He actually came out in this match, I believe, didn't he? Billy Graham come out with him. Let's see. Yeah. I don't know why we have a picture in here of it. Let's see. It doesn't show him here, but Billy Superstar Graham was with him. Yes. Yeah. Lance said Morocco and Piper were buddies.
Walter Shelby, Mafia killed Don. Did he? I didn't know that. Didn't know he was gone.
Killed who?
Don Morocco. John said Morocco had Superstar Billy Graham was in damn good shape right here too. He couldn't wrestle, of course, but my God, he was in good shape still. If he was in his 60s, he's gone. You look at this. I did not know Don Morocco is dead or was dead.
I didn't know that either.
I almost want to double check that because I didn't think he was, to say the truth. Of course, Billy Superstar Graham passed away a few years ago, and Dino Bravo's from Montreal is the subject of one of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes. Really good episode. Did you see that one yet, Jeff?
Oh yeah, I've seen them all. That is a great TV show.
Yeah, fabulous. If you guys in the chat haven't seen Dark Side of the Ring, it's available on Crave here in Canada. What do you guys get? It's a Vice show. What do you get it on, Jeff? I think the channel's called Viceland.
Okay, there you go. Yep. It's either called Vice or Viceland. I can't remember one of the.
Yeah, Viceland. I've heard Viceland. I think. Yeah, I've heard of that. But the guy who made that, Jason Eisner, also directed Hobo with a Shotgun and a few other things. But he actually graduated from the same screen arts course that my son finished a year and a half ago. So it's kind of like my son looks at him like, hey, he loves his stuff. So if he can only, he just really, really enjoys it. Billy Superstar Graham is alive still, not dead. Well, no. All right, now I got to double check. What am I doing here?
Walter Sylvie said his babysitter dated Ernie Ladd.
Okay.
That's a big guy right there, Ernie Ladd. All right, Pete. We need an alive or dead update here on Morocco and Billy Graham.
I do not see any sign. Oh, that says Don Morocco. Oh, what did I do? We just go back here, look at it. I do not see any sign that Don Morocco is dead. There must be Dino Bravo, maybe he was thinking about, because it was a mafia type that killed Dino Bravo. And I remember Billy Superstar Graham passing away, so he had he had a long series of illnesses to deal with. Well, then again, maybe not. Nope. It says he's 77. He is still alive. I apologize. I really thought he was. I thought he had passed.
I thought he died a long time ago. I could have sworn.
It wasn't as long ago as I was thinking.
Huh.
But it does not have anywhere that I see. It says he's still 77.
Wow.
Born in 43. So guess not. I apologize. I am wrong. That's good. Always going to learn something. That's the best part about these. People have an input. That's why we want it. Excellent. But Don Morocco is not dead either. Dino Bravo, man, that was quite a story. Anyway, don't hit that button by mistake. Let's go back to here. We'll go to the next one, which was Greg Valentine versus I missed one somehow. Oh well, we'll go here instead. Randy Savage versus Butch Reed. Now,
yeah, Butch Reed, he wrestled in NWA a lot too.
And you know what? I looking at all this, he's just passed away recently, like last month.
Didn't he also go by Bruce Reed? Was it always Butch Reed?
I don't know. I'm not aware of that. You know, I mean, I really didn't. Other than his little bit of stuff that he did here in the WWF, I really didn't follow him at all.
The Macho Man. Oh, what a great wrestler he was.
He was classic. Randy Poffo. He actually did a lot in the Atlanta Grand Prix in the mid late 78. It was 1978. He and Lanny, leaping Lanny Poffo, was a genius and such. They come up, the two of them. Randy's baseball career was pretty much done. So the two of them come up to Atlanta Grand Prix. Angelo threw a mask on and called himself the Carpetbagger, their father. And he was like sort of the guy who run around and run interference and manage and be the mouth. And for Randy Macho Man Savage was the big heel, and Leaping Lanny Poffo was the huge baby face. And they had, it was a full year or two of really good battles as they developed. And of course, they both went on to the big show, especially Randy, because Randy's persona was just so amazing, right? Lanny was a talented wrestler, right? But he just didn't seem to have the charisma that Randy did.
Yeah, so, Randy, he mentioned he's played baseball. He played, he was in the minors for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Back in the early 70s, I think.
Yeah.
Hurt his arm and couldn't throw anymore.
Yeah. So he went into wrestling with the family business, per se. So, yeah, it's pretty cool, really.
He died fairly young in his 50s, but wasn't he in a car crash?
Who, Randy?
Yeah.
Randy was, but they thought he actually had a heart attack. Which is why he went off the road and hit a tree.
Oh, okay. I thought someone did. I didn't realize that. Okay.
No, he ran off the road and hit a tree. It's I think he was 58. Yeah.
There was another show on Dark Side of the Ring about him and Elizabeth and Hulk Hogan, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. I think it was the very first episode of season 1, and it's a good episode. They all are, but it's eye opening, and it does a lot of talk with people who are right there. Hulk, like, what was her name? Hulk Hogan's wife. They're estranged now, obviously. He was with her for years through that whole thing, and she was best friends with Elizabeth, and of course, So here you go. Here's the match. Slick is still alive, but Savage, Elizabeth, and Butch Reed are gone. I still remember the weekend Miss Elizabeth passed away because she died like on a Sunday or Saturday, and we went down to Halifax, Nova Scotia, 3 of us, and they were taping Raw on Monday night and SmackDown on Tuesday. So we went down and saw it. It was May 2003, And when they started Raw, they always have the memorial banners that they start the show with, and that went up on the big screen for that show we were at. And that was actually the night that they had Stone Cold Steve Austin's return beer bash, where they had all the beer out onto they had cases and cases. They had like 20 people come out with like flats of beer and cups and stuff. And they had another like 50 or 60 people down and back at, and a big party in the ring. Everybody drinking beer afterwards. It was hilarious all around the ring. You know, kind of an infamous one, really. And if you read Stone Cold Steve Austin's book, it was because it was after he had gotten in trouble for battery on Deborah. And his part of the court injunction was he couldn't touch alcohol for so many months. And this was the week after the injunction ended. So he could drink alcohol again. He had been off TV, and he came back on TV and had this Stone Cold Austin's beer bash. And it was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We were at that show. Anyway, I digress. Just reading some of the comments here. Let's see. Which was a star for Bill Watts, Mid-South. It started in Florida for Jerry Graham. Yep. Okay, that sounds a lot of... Okay, here's one from Lance. Savage's dad was a wrestler that went by the Miser. The dad paid for Gorgeous George's funeral. Yeah, Angelo Poffo. And he went by various things, like by his own name a lot. But I mean, they had so many different gimmicks and stuff throughout the years. Here in Atlantic, Canada, when he come up, he's a recognizable face, and he was bringing his two sons up here, so he hid it under a mask, and he called himself the carpetbagger up here. But I mean, he was an older man at that point. Walter's got a comment here. It says Randy had a heart attack in a car crash. Just got married to his high school. Yeah, it was working. Yeah. So that's what I thought. He had a heart attack when he was driving. They really didn't know that for a while. The autopsy showed it. And then Savage Angelo, who ran an opposition of Jerry Jarrett. So Angelo Poffo was also ran a territory there too. So let's go on to the next one and see what we got. Find the right spot here. I don't see what's coming up on here, I guess. We'll go through a little quicker. So, Greg Valentine versus...
That's
Greg Valentine versus Ricky Steamboat. And one of the best matches ever was Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man in WrestleMania 3. Still considered one of the best matches ever done. Oh, I got back a little ways. Okay. And so it was kind of a downfall, or it was a letdown to see Ricky in this match. I love Greg the Hammer Valentine, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's rather bland. Do you remember him wrestling much, Jeff?
Oh, yeah. I remember quite a bit.
Yeah. He was, when he came up, he was a big, undefeatable bad guy. He's the one who, Chief Jay Strongbow was a big face, but an older guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Greg the Hammer Valentine, before Ric Flair, to me, because I didn't know who Ric Flair was in NWA at this point, his move was the figure four leg lock, and he broke Chief Joe Strombow's legs with the figure four leg lock.
Jeez.
Yeah, so he was a real bad guy. Well,
yeah, he wrestled for years and years.
Oh yeah, and he's still kicking around the convention scene too. All right, what do we got next?
Valentine won that match, didn't he?
Valentine won that match. It was a real quick showing for, I can't remember. It wasn't even a.
Wasn't it one of those matches where Steamboat was winning the whole time, and then all of a sudden he like reversed the move, and Valentine ended up winning? Exactly.
But Steamboat had been out for a long time. Like that was when Steamboat brought his baby in his arms out to the ring, dressed in the same robes and stuff, and it was. Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this with wrestling. It was cheesy, but he was another one like George the Animal Steel. He was just making an appearance because of his big names. That's why I say it was such a letdown after what he did in WrestleMania 3 to WrestleMania 4. Steamboat was he just come out and waved to the crowd. That's all he did.
One man gang versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Jeez.
Yeah, That's cool. Like, I love both those guys. Guess how many of them are not with us anymore?
I'd be surprised if any of them are still around.
One-man gang named George Gray is still around. He's still alive. He was working as a corrections officer, believe it or not. He's not all that. He's 50s, 60s maybe, but he is still with us. Bam Bam Bigelow passed away years ago. Oliver Humperdinck passed away years ago as well. But, it's like, of all the people, it's one-man gang. Nope, he's doing quite well. George Gray is his name, and he lives down south. Can't remember what state, but if you go on, he still does conventions and stuff too. Wrestlemania 17, he did oh my God, it was funny. Okay, do you remember Hakeem the African Dream?
No.
He wrestled as the Twin Towers with the Big Boss Band, did a lot of stuff against Hogan and Savage in the next year following this. Anyway, the one-man gang turned into Hakeem the African Dream. And long story short, it was a great big moo-moo-like robe and thing that he wore. And when they brought him back to do the gimmick battle royal in WrestleMania 17, they wanted him as Hakeem the African Dream, but he had lost so much weight that the robes just he couldn't wear them at all. So he had to put on he came out as a one-man gang instead, just with stuff on, right? Anyway, so he's doing quite well, to the best of my knowledge. All right, next up. Everybody knows these guys.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, I was watching this, and I guess this was Jake Roberts' prime here, because he was moving around the ring like nobody's business. He was really fast, and it was. I guess maybe I've seen too many documentaries of him now, where how he's in good health, and he's really.
Jake the Snake was a fantastic wrestler.
Yeah.
Great charisma and an awful drug habit. But have you ever watched Beyond the Mat?
Yes.
What a great, and that's probably the most hard-hitting thing is the Jake in that, eh?
That was the one with like 3 different wrestlers or more?
Well, it was more.
Okay. Because I saw that, and then I saw another documentary that was just Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, okay. There's one of those on Amazon Prime right now. Excuse me. I think.
Oh, really? Okay. I might have to rewatch that.
Yeah, I think I just saw it. I've not watched it yet, but this was Barry Blaustein, I think is the guy's name. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to grab it, okay? Beyond the Mat, though, I highly, highly recommend it. It's a documentary that the guy made, a passionate wrestling fan that goes right from all avenues of wrestling it covers, from the little territories that now are the little indie circuits, right up through some of the historic heroes like this. Does a lot of talk with Terry Funk, Jake Roberts, and the Jake Roberts stuff is raw. I'll say that. It is raw. Him and his daughter, who's estranged from, and all the issues that Jake had, and Jake was right in the middle of them through this whole thing. Now, Jake's cleaned up since, but he hadn't at this point. Caper Dave, I got to agree with you. Of all, he was hilarious. I'm sorry. He made WWF programming for 20 years. All of it, whether it's his manager or what he was on Primetime Wrestling, which we did get here in this area. We could see it on some channels. He was just hilarious with Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah.
And it's funny, eh? Like, you look back at it now, because he's a guy like the Weasel who you love to hate. But frankly, man, looking back at it, everybody loved Bobby Heenan. He was just a incredibly funny person.
Yeah, he was great with Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah, for sure.
I love Gorilla Monsoon as an announcer. He was terrific.
Yes, agreed, 100%. Yeah.
And a great name.
And a great name. All right, that's a Jake Roberts with Bobby Heenan. Let's look at a couple more comments. Wicked finish move with the DDT, absolutely for Jake. Yeah, I heard of. Oh, yeah. That's right, Lance. I was there the night that Mike told that story on one of his shows. I think it was one of the Thursday night shows, or maybe it was even AAA. I don't know. Anyway, where he interviewed him, and he was right. He was right out of it the whole time. It was not a good thing for Mike. It sort of go from your favorite wrestler of all time to like, okay, I don't like this guy. That's terrible. I can't remember. It had to have been a Thursday night show that I saw it on. Let me know, Lance. I think that's what it is, though.
I didn't see the show, but I did hear Mike telling that story.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure where we were when he told it. Oh, I don't know when that was for sure. But he nearly killed Ricky Steamboat when he DDT'd him. I don't remember that one. And Bobby Heenan, yeah, he was big everywhere he went. AWA though, there's AWA kicks up again and again and again for whatever reason. I think up in Minnesota, there's so many people with roots in Minnesota. Rick Rude's from Minnesota. Bobby Heenan came out of that territory, huge in that. Might have been just that Vern Gagne was such a prominent figure that he made that territory fantastic. But
I remember seeing something about the AWA where when Hogan was big there.
Yeah,
2 different times Hogan won the championship and they stripped him of it for some technicality reasons.
In AWA, really?
Yeah, and they gave it to I think both times it like reverted back to Nick Bockwinkel.
Nick Bockwinkel, that's right. Oh my God!
And apparently, I guess that Hogan wasn't happy with this, so he eventually just took off. I think that's when he went to the WWF.
He was
kind of screwing him over there a bit.
You know why that is? It's the chase, right? There's more money having the chase than there is in actually friggin' giving it to him, letting him run with it. All right, let's go to the next one. Because this match here was a 15-minute draw, so it didn't. They both got eliminated. So this is the first non-tournament match. Excuse me. And frankly, it's not much of a match. I mean, Ultimate Warrior never had a good match in his career. That somebody wouldn't carry him because all it is slugging. And Hercules was okay, but whatever. And they're both gone.
Is Hercules the same wrestler as Hercules Hernandez, or are those 2 different guys?
Yes, they are the same wrestler. Yeah, they just dropped the Hernandez towards the end of it. In WrestleMania 1, I think he wrestled as Hercules Hernandez.
Because he wrestled here when he was first starting out, and he had a classic matchup with Dick the Bruiser. I mean, Hercules Hernandez was probably like mid-20s, and Dick the Bruiser was probably mid-50s, if not even 60.
Yeah.
And Dick the Bruiser just threw him out of the ring, slammed his head into the announcer's table. The table broke, and then he poured some bucket over his head. I mean, it was hilarious. The old guy taking out the young guy.
Kind of what I would almost think is an old guy with seasoned like Dick the Bruiser. He probably had seen enough and was capable of doing enough that he could probably whoop the young fella if he really wanted to. You know what I mean?
He was old man strong for sure.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Check the comments here. Oh
gosh, Pete, we're almost the same age as Dick the Bruiser was back then towards the end when he was wrestling.
Oh, you had to go there, didn't you?
It just hit me. I was saying in his mid-50s. I was like, wait a minute. I wonder when that old man strength's going to kick in for me.
I don't remember that caper. Hey, look at that. They've got Slappy Marsden in the house. Gotta love all these crazy wrestlers. Right. And he didn't have big runs with Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens in the AWA. Absolutely. Nick Bockwinkel was friggin' huge. He was champion in AWA forever. I don't know how long, forever. And that's why there was never a champion there other than Nick Bockwinkel. I can remember watching those old matches, like those old AWA cards, and he always friggin' won. Anyway, enough of Ultimate Warrior and Hercules, other than to say, yep, they're both gone, unfortunately, I guess. All right, where are we? All right, so after that came the big one with the rematch from the Friday night main event. And I can still remember watching it, and I got a little it didn't really meet any. Certainly didn't meet its expectations. Because they fought for a while, but I'm going to tell you this right now: Andre couldn't even friggin' move.
I don't know. That's what was so sad about Andre in the WrestleMania. By the time he got to WrestleMania, he was done.
Yeah,
he had such back problems he could barely move. I mean, in this match, do you remember Andre just falls down at some point?
Yeah, he does.
Like his knee buckled or something, and he just fell to the ground. And Hogan wasn't anywhere around him. I think it was an honest move where he just fell down on his own.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a fake thing at all.
They say like in that he's starting with the singlet, he's wearing back braces you can't see, and he was struggling to do everything in life at that point.
Yeah.
But it's just to make the name. So they did what they could, and they definitely swung a curve with the double disqualification. But
that was right out of a soap opera.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, what's wrestling? Soap opera for men, right?
Oh, by the way, there's a great documentary about Andre the Giant.
I think I've seen that one from HBO. It was on HBO, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think was his daughter in it? There's some relative I think he had on there. But yeah, they showed a lot of pictures from his early days when he was wrestling in France as like a teenager. And, he had a whole different name back then.
Yeah. Andre Roussimoff. I think he just started off with his name. But he was throwing drop kicks and everything at a young age, right?
Oh, yeah. He was incredible when he was young. That's why it's sad to see him like this where he just looks like he's in so much pain.
No, exactly. The whole thing was kind of sad. And not knowing now, if you knew then what you know now, it wouldn't be... I don't know how to even put it, but you know what I'm saying. Now you know how bad it was for them. Now you know why they did what they did. But I was shocked at the time that oh my God, they both lost. Yeah, there's Caper Dave said yes, his daughter's in it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I have watched. I watched it when it first came out because we get it on. We get it up here on Crave. Anything on HBO is on Crave, so we do get to see it.
Go on YouTube and search Andre the Giant drinking stories.
Oh my God, yeah.
Those stories are amazing.
Yeah, really. All right, so what do we got for pictures left here? We'll go to the next one. Okay, so now we're into round 2. And we got Ted DiBiase. I don't like the way this works on here.
Why the picture showing up too small?
No, it's not that. It's like when I go to click on the banners to bring the banners up, but just StreamYard talk, right? And you put the cursor over top of it, it disappears.
Oh, yeah.
There. All right, so Ted DiBiase versus Don Morocco. And, of course, I was surprised when Don Morocco kind of won the first match, but no, he was going to go up against Ted DiBiase. Excuse me. You knew DiBiase was going to win. It seems to me, because that's right. This was kind of interesting because DiBiase and Virgil both interfered in Hogan's match, Hogan-Andre. And then Virgil got the crap beat out of him, and Andre just finished his match. So DiBiase went out and did this one alone, actually.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And Morocco was good, but it was going to be DiBiase in that situation. And then he went on because, of course, he's carries right on to the final.
So wasn't part of the storyline before this, DiBiase was trying to pay to get the title somehow?
Yes, he was paying. That's exactly right. Yeah. The $1 Million Man, he's going to buy the title. And truth be known, okay. All right, how does this go now? The original plans for WrestleMania 4 were to have Ted DiBiase win the title.
Oh, that's right.
But in order for that to happen, Randy Savage was supposed to win the Intercontinental title from the Honky Tonk Man. But the Honky Tonk Man, for whatever reason, had the power to not allow himself to lose to Randy Savage. So they changed everything around and gave Randy Savage the title.
How does that happen? How does a wrestler have any power against Vince McMahon?
I don't know. Blackmail?
That's what I was gonna say. video.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know. And the stories that I heard basically put it the same way. We don't know how the Honky Tonk Man could say he wasn't going to lose the title to Savage, but that's what he said, and he got away with it, so they changed it. And
I'm sure Ted DiBiase was thrilled with that.
Yeah, and to make it up to Ted DiBiase, that was when they created the $1 Million Belt.
That's right.
So that he carried around for the next few years, the $1 Million Belt. And then even when he went away and was gone for how many years, and he came back in the mid '90s, more as the manager for the Ringmaster. Do you remember that?
No, I don't think I do.
They brought a fella in from WCW, and they called him the Ringmaster, teamed him up with Ted DiBiase as his manager, and he carried around the $1 Million Belt. And that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He turned into Stone Cold Steve Austin within months. Yeah. But I've got pictures of DiBiase and Austin holding the $1 Million Belt, just like, find pictures to get for autographs and stuff. And it's a really neat one. The Ringmaster is what he was called. Yeah. So after these guys, we got Randy Savage. Is that right? Randy Savage and Greg the Hammer Valentine. And by this point, you pretty much can see the way things are wrapping up, right?
Is this Savage's second or third match of the night?
This is his second match.
Second match?
Yep. So I love Greg the Hammer Valentine. I really do. Although I got a little funny story is Connor, my kid, when he was 17 or 18, he took off down to the Bangor Toy Comic Convention down in Bangor, Maine, just himself. He got himself press passes. He was doing a YouTube channel. He'd write to all these places. They give him press passes so he could go and do videos and stuff, right? And then put them up. So it was kind of neat. So he drove down himself, about 2 hours away, and went in and was filming all kinds of stuff in this convention center, and it was Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. He started filming them when they were signing stuff, and they chewed him out, told him we could fly the fuck out of there. It was kind of funny. He came back and told me the story. It was all right. Yeah. Up into the chat. Oh, I missed a lot of chat. Didn't come. Hey, DJC's in the house. How you doing, DJC?
He's getting snacks. He'll be back.
Oh, getting stacks. Right on. Virgil versus B. Arthur. Oh, my God. Oh, if you want Virgil, just go to the Subway. He's got a table set up where he'll sign autographs for $5. B. Arthur would beat the living snot out of him. That is not even close. Lance, I'm disappointed in you. Here's a good one for Slappy. In just 6 short hours, Andre drank 119.
I heard the story. I heard lots of video of Ken Patera telling the story. There was a whole bunch of wrestlers, and Lou Albano was there, and they were just drinking for hours on end. And they left. I think it was at Caesars because they were wrestling. I think they're wrestling there, and they just got to the wrestling match just in time. But Patera said that they were both so hammered that they spent the whole time they were wrestling each other, and they spent a lot of the time just outside of the ring. Like one would leave, one would come back, because they knew they were just sloshed, and they were just trying to avoid looking embarrassed, being embarrassed.
I can remember watching like old clips of Ken Patera, the Olympic strongman. He'd fight Andre the Giant because there weren't very many who could fight Andre the Giant and put on any sort of credible match.
Hey, Caper Dave asked about Greg the Hammer. Oh, there you go. Yeah, he was. Who was his partner?
He was in the Dream Team, which originally was Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And then Dino Bravo got in the mix, and in WrestleMania 3 was when they turned on Brutus the Barber Beefcake, or Brutus Beefcake is all it was tonight, Brutus Beefcake. And they basically left him in the ring, and Dino Bravo and Greg the Hammer Valentine took off, and they were the new Dream Team for a while. But with Brutus Beefcake, Greg the Hammer, he actually, I think their manager was Johnny Valiant or Jimmy Valiant, anyway, they held the tag team titles for a while. So that was a scoop on the Hammer. But he was more now like he did that for a while. He also went with the Honky Tonk Man for a while. He was called Rhythm and Blues. But I don't know if they ever won the title, but that was years later. But there's some WrestleMania somewhere where Greg the Hammer dyes his hair black, puts on an ugly jumpsuit, fake strums a guitar, and they're called Rhythm and Blues. So, you know, whatever gimmick works. Hey, if it lasts for 6 months and you make some money, they make some money. You know.
I always laughed that with a name like Brutus Beefcake, he ends up getting another nickname, you know, the barber thrown in there.
All right. Sloppy's comment, B. Arthur, and then there's Maud. Yes, you're absolutely right. But you got to realize that you got to think, okay, but who could you put up against B. Arthur that would actually give her a fight in a one-on-one match? I'll give you a hint. It ain't Virgil.
No. Not Virgil at all.
Johnny Valiant, right there. There's Lance's. Yeah, Greg Valentine, Brutus Beefcake, managed by Johnny Valiant. There's that. Yep. I think he was, and they were called Rhythm and Blues. And it seems to me, in one of these WrestleMania somewhere, maybe we'll look at someday, Rhythm and Blues were, Rhythm and Blues were driven to the ring in a pink Cadillac. And the driver of the pink Cadillac was actually Diamond Dallas Page before anybody knew who Diamond Dallas Page was.
Oh, wow.
There's a little piece. Yeah. And we'll get to another little piece of trivia kind of like that coming up. Okay, let's go to the next match. We got a few more to go to. So, obviously, Macho Man won that one. Won this match clean. So, what do we got next? Oh, here we go. Honky Tonk Man versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Banners.
I just watched a show about Brutus Beefcake talking about the accident that nearly killed him and why he had to quit wrestling.
The parasailing accident? Is that what it was?
So. I can't remember what the accident was, but it sounded awful. It sounds like he was lucky to be alive.
Yeah. And that was about 5 years after this, I think. He did wrestle some afterwards, but he just never could do the same stuff, I believe. Yeah. The Brutus, Ed Leslie's his name. He had so many goofy gimmicks after this one was good. I'm sorry. I liked the Beefcake, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Looking back at it, he wasn't exactly a great wrestler, but certainly not technical, but he was entertaining. But then afterwards, he just sort of getting all these different gimmicks like Zodiac and the Booty Man. And I can't even tell you them all. It was kind of foolish up through WCW years. But anyway, so this was, I don't know if you remember, Honky Tonk Man was with Jimmy Hart and Peggy Sue. And this shows you where women's wrestling has become nowadays. I didn't have a clue until I saw this online years later. Peggy Sue comes down dressed up in the poodle skirt and the sweater and the blonde hair and stuff like that with the sunglasses on. And Peggy Sue is Sherry Martel, the women's champion, dressed up in a costume so nobody would recognize her. So she got to the show and got money, but she was as Peggy Sue, the Honky Tonk Man's valet.
That's just crazy. The women's champion was put in disguise.
Exactly. But there was nothing. The women's division was nothing then. I think you and I talk about this, or we'll talk about it maybe even online last week. But frankly, I like the women's wrestling is sometimes a lot better than the men's wrestling nowadays. I find
they seem to be almost more athletic, like a lot of aerobatics. I mean,
yep,
it is pretty interesting.
Not trying to be chauvinist, but a couple years ago when they had the first women's Royal Rumble match at the Royal Rumble, and they had the men on, and then they had the women on. They brought the men's on first, and we're going to finish with the women's. I thought, that's crazy. Don't do that. You know, that's just. And I watched it, and the women's Royal Rumble was 10 times better than the men's. It was they were fantastic. The show they put on. So ever since then, I've sort of thought these. Right now, women's wrestling is the best it has ever been in history. And man, you're right. They're athletic. Okay.
You got Beefcake with those big shears. Originally, he said when they were doing the gimmick, he came out with like scissors.
Yeah.
The scissors were so small, nobody could see him. So he needed something big so the fans could actually see it when he came walking in.
You, if you get a chance to watch this one, it's kind of funny because there's not much space. The aisleway where they walk, and you're sitting there worried that somebody's going to stick their hand up in these shears as he's going down the aisle like this. The hands coming everywhere all around him, right? Him just
is this the one? Didn't somebody like grab it or like almost come real close to grabbing the shears?
Yes. And it's like, holy jeez, it's like they're too close. Anyway, that was Intercontinental. Honky Tonk Man kept it. Back to something along the lines of because of the Honky Tonk Man, Ted DiBiase never got to become the World Wrestling Federation champion. Very, very strange story. I really don't know what the background of it is. And I don't know that anybody really does. So what's Caper Dave says, you're correct, Pete. I agree. Many times the women's matches are better. Charlotte Flair is one of the best performers WWE has. And I don't even know where I see it, but I see people crapping all over Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is she's pretty friggin' impressive. The bumps they take, the moves they make, between her and who's the man? They call her the man. Not Sasha Banks. Oh my God, brain farts. But anyway, just amazing, just amazing. Yeah, looks like he's running through the shredder. The tights. DJC says, "Love the tights." Yeah, it looks like he runs through the shredder there. I think they're commenting him in was it Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura? Look like the moths that got to them. Okay, so that one is not part of the tournament. Next one up. Oh, again, not part of the tournament. It is the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan versus the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware. Right there. So, yeah. All because of Matilda and the Weasel, and Bobby the Brain Heenan wears the dog trainer's jacket out, and it's just a comedy match. And I think a lot of it at this time, and they did it in WrestleMania 3 as well. I think the Dynamite Kid, Tom Billington, was in such bad shape by this point that they used to put them in all kinds of six-man tag teams, just to take the pressure off him so he wouldn't have to do very much. Man, he was incredible. Do you remember him wrestling a whole lot, Jeff?
Who's that?
The Dynamite Kid. Tom Billington is his name. Dynamite Kid for the British Bulldog.
I remember the name, but I can't say I don't really remember him wrestling though.
He was phenomenal, high style action. He did huge stuff. He's out of Calgary Stampedes where he started, then did huge stuff in Japan and at the British Bulldogs, but he just destroyed his body. He's dead now, but he died. He just died a couple years ago, but he'd been in a wheelchair for years. Very bitter about the whole thing. There's actually a book out on him, which I've read, and it's interesting, but it's very, very sad. And Davey Boy Smith is another one. I love Davey Boy Smith. He had one of the best matches ever in 1992 SummerSlam with Bret Hart, till you find out the truth behind the story that Bret carried him through the whole thing, and he was hardly in a state to even comprehend what was going on.
Jeez.
Yeah, and Davey Boy ended up dying of basically OD at like 39. He was quite young here. I mean, he was only 24, 25 in here. And I don't know. But Haku and was it Tamu and Haku, or they're still going strong. They say that Haku is one of the toughest men in wrestling right there, ever in wrestling.
Really?
That guy right there as the Islanders. Anyway, that match was just a comedy match, really, so they could run around with the funny, because Bobby the Brain Heenan would try to run away and try to go slow enough because the British Bulldogs would try to be getting Matilda to chase Bobby, and they'd literally be dragging the dog by the leash up the aisleway, and Bobby trying to go slow and trip so they could drag the dog up to him to throw the dog on the Brain so they could say he's attacking him. So it's kind of sad. It was all kind of sad, really.
Yeah, I hope the dog wasn't attacking him at all.
No. The dog was like, would you please give me a bone and take me home? So by this point, I think the Macho Man had already, Ted DiBiase had already had a bye to the final, and Savage had to fight the one-man gang. Did you see any clips of this one?
Yes, that's his third match. That's crazy.
This is his third match. None of the matches are more than like 5 minutes, though, either. I mean, they were all short matches. Other than
these all really short.
Yeah, but it's so foolish. Okay, the guy gets. It's like, I know kayfabe and and shoot, but the guy's in the biggest match of his career, and Slick gives him his cane, and he goes around like swinging the cane, trying to stab him with the cane, like 6 times in a row, till the referee finally sees him and disqualifies him. And it's like, this is so stupid. It's not real quality matches here.
There were a few stinkers in this WrestleMania.
Oh, you are not kidding. But look at this. Look at the girth on him.
God.
Let me add in this chat there earlier about what prison he was working at for years too, and he really did do very well after the fact, after wrestling. Anyway, Macho won that one. We had the last non-title match, and it was I should change Demolition versus Strike Force. Mr. Fuji's gone, of course. Both Rick Martel and Tito Santana are still with us, as are both members of Demolition, I believe. So this is actually one of the least ones. And then Fuji just passed away because, he was 80-some years old.
Is this towards the end of Fuji's career? Because I remember watching him in the 70s. Was it the 70s or early 80s on WOR?
But he wrestled for years and years and years, okay? And he was a good wrestler, entertaining wrestler, did the gimmick, the Japanese gimmick with the salt, everything. And then he managed for more years further. So he's a manager here, right?
Right.
So he managed at least another 10 years, because remember, he was Yokozuna's manager later on.
Oh, wow.
In WrestleMania 9, 10, that area, he was Yokozuna's manager. So Mr. Fuji was around a long, long time. He was none of these guys like Bobby the Brain Heenan, heel manager that everybody loved to hate, but behind the scenes, everybody loved him.
Did he manage the Wild Samoans?
He may have at one time, but I always remember it being Captain Lou.
Oh, okay.
Captain Lou Albano managing them. Yeah. But, there we go.
Strike Force kind of reminds me of a watered down. Oh shoot! I can't think. Road Warriors. That's
Well, Strike Force or Demolition?
Demolition.
You mean the face paint and stuff.
Oh yeah, them.
Yeah. No, that's Demolition, and I agree. I mean, that was what there was not really much hiding. That's what they were modeled after, because at this point, the Road Warriors had never been in the WWF. They were just for. They were only been in NWA, WCW, right down to that. Well, Georgia Championship Wrestling at that time. But,
was there another dark side of the ring for Road Warriors?
Yes, there was. Yeah, and that was kind of eye-opening for me as well, because I knew nothing about the demons that Hawk had. He had wicked demons too.
And the worst part was he had changed his whole life around, and then he ends up dying just a short time afterwards.
Yeah. Animal just passed away within the last year too. Did you know that?
No, he did.
Both of the Road Warriors are gone now. Yeah.
I think Animal was. Isn't his last name Laurinaitis?
It is Laurinaitis. John Laurinaitis, I believe it is.
Yeah, because his son played for the Rams.
Okay.
I guess in the 2000s.
That actually wasn't Fuji. Choppy pee pee. It was a little fella. It wasn't Fuji. But it was. I do know what you're talking about for sure. Yeah, that was with Kai and Tai, right? The manager of Kai and Tai. Because Val Venis had seduced the manager's young wife or whatever like that. Oh my God, yeah, I remember that area. Here you go, back to AWA right there, Lance. Rick Martel held the AWA championship. Rick Martel was a much bigger wrestler than a lot of people give him credit for. And after this, it wasn't this one. He turned heel against Tito Santana a year later. And he went on to a pretty big singles career as the model with the spray mist, but it also led to one of the worst WrestleMania matches in history. I think it was WrestleMania. Yeah, I'm quite sure it was WrestleMania. One of the worst matches in history. To make it WrestleMania even worse is he had blinded with his what they call it? Oh, shoot. There was a name for the mist, the perfume that he had, okay? And he sprayed it in Jake Roberts' eyes, and Roberts had these contacts that made his eyes look all white so he couldn't see. So they had a match where Roberts couldn't see, and Martel had to wear a bag over his head. Actually, they both wore bags over their heads, so they couldn't see each other in the ring. And it was just it was terrible. It was terrible.
Did they ever find each other?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Did they ever find each other?
Well, eventually, there's as they get closer, the crowd will. Oh! it was painful to watch. It was right up there with, oh God, who was it? It was the Big Boss Man, and I don't remember who it was in a Hell in a Cell match. And there was some sort of stipulation where they had guard dogs all around the ring while they had the Hell in a Cell match. With the big cage not on the ring but around the ring. And the dogs were so disinterested. The dogs were crapping all over the place. I can't remember what it was called, but it's arrogance. Oh my God, Lance, thank you. That is exactly what it was. Arrogance was a spray. That is it. Yeah. Right on. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. So that'll be another show we could do, Jeff. Worst WrestleMania matches in history. We'll talk about the blindfold match and the dog crapping all over the place match.
It looks so good on paper.
Dog should have used the papers. Imagine being the poor crew guy having to go clean all that up. Imagine being the wrestler and come out and do the next match.
God.
All right, so we got the championship match. Of course, Randy Macho Man Savage, Elizabeth, Ted DiBiase, and Andre come out with them. But there, okay, get that. And I want to put this up. Andre came out with him, but Virgil was not to be seen again after Hogan beat him up after their match.
Did he actually get hurt?
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe he may have done something. I really don't know. This is for whatever reason. This picture is the picture. When you look at WrestleMania 4, you type in for a picture. This is the picture you get every friggin' time. Is this picture of him in a wrist lock? But it was a good match. And of course, I don't even remember. Andre started interfering a little bit, and Savage sends Elizabeth to the back, and he comes out with Hulk Hogan. And I mean, Hulk Hogan hits DiBiase over the back with a chair. That's how. And then Savage goes up and drops the elbow. Would you call it a tainted victory? I don't know.
Just to go back to Greg the Hammer Valentine. It just hit me that he had one of the funniest, when he would get hit, he would kind of stagger and he'd pause, and then he'd either fall forward or fall backwards. But it was just hilarious.
The 2x4 fall, right? Just
yes, he'd go straight down.
Yeah,
he could hit and he'd stand like this for a long time. And it was like,
bang. And who else did that great?
Didn't Ric Flair do it too?
Got it right there. Ric Flair was awesome with that. He'd be standing there like perfectly straight and then just. Yeah. Almost like one chicken leg kick out back and bang. It was hilarious.
Which it reminds me of the Harley Race headbutt where he'd stand there.
Oh my God, yes.
And he'd just fall down and hit the guy with his head.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. But I still remember watching this, and it's like going into this. Remember at this point, okay, other than transitional champions like the Iron Sheik was for like couple months. Killer Khan was in between periods of like Bruno Sammartino to and Billy Graham then was for Bruno Sammartino into Bob Backlund. You never saw heel champions. So for it to be another face champion come right in, when Randy Savage won it, I was kind of shocked at the time. I really did not expect him going into that day. I did not dream that anyone was going to win but Hulk Hogan or Ted DiBiase. So this was really quite the friggin' the setup.
You would have been right if it wasn't for the honky tonk man.
There you go. Yeah, but and then this led for a great year with the oh my god, I can remember though, because there wasn't weekly wrestling like we have now. There wasn't constant updates like there is now. Once a month, if you're lucky in the winter, you got Saturday night's main event. They had house shows going on. You'd have your 4 at this time, was there 4? Yeah, at this time there were 4 pay-per-views a year, right? You had Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and WrestleMania. That's it. And then you have we didn't get primetime wrestling in Canada. You could pick up some shows once in a while. You catch some news. So there really wasn't a whole lot of news on this until the next Saturday night's main event a month later on NBC to even see fallout from this. So the world wasn't overwhelmed with information at that point like we are nowadays, right? So it kind of made this stuff all a little bit more special too when it did happen.
When I was little, the big wrestling matches here were on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then they would show them on Sunday morning. But the funny thing was, in the paper on Sunday, there was, in the sports section, they actually had a wrestling section where they told you who wrestled who and who won. I don't know if I ever if newspapers are still around. I guess I can't imagine them having wrestling results like back then.
Well, house shows, they don't always I've gone to quite a few house shows. Like when they come through this part of the country, they'll come through and they'll usually stop once in Nova Scotia, maybe twice in New Brunswick, but it'll be the same show, same results every night. So they might play Moncton one night and St. John, or they might even play Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton, all 3. They'll even do a Saturday night Moncton, Sunday afternoon St. John, Sunday night Fredericton, and then they'll be gone back down to New York, And it'd be neat to go to see 2 of them because I wonder if they'd be exactly the same. Usually they change things up a little tiny bit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But they do, these house shows they're all practice for the big events that are going to be televised, right? They're all practice is what they are. Anyway, we know this end. He dropped it in and we ended up with this. And that was the end of WrestleMania IV.
What a great picture.
And that's another one. You type in WrestleMania IV, you get that picture all the time too. Yeah.
That's a classic right there.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling Saturday Mornings.
Oh my God, yeah.
He had a cartoon, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah. It was good. You could get the tapes. You could go online, you could find the tapes and the DVDs now. Yeah. I don't know. I love talking wrestling. I love old wrestling. I don't know. Is it? What don't I like is the cartoonishness of it. That I like it better then than now. Why do you think it is? What? Because you don't watch it anymore either, right?
No, not really. On the streaming service I have, there is 1 or 2 channels that'll show wrestling. But it's I think Ring of Honor is one.
Yeah.
And then they show Japanese wrestling. And so it's kind of, those 2 are kind of closer to old wrestling than WWF stuff or WWE now.
Yeah.
If I see it on, I'll watch it for a little bit.
Same here.
And I do like it when I watch it, but I just I don't know, I just don't go searching for it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was just being a kid too. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, but I loved it. I loved it right up till I was 40, 45. Right. It's just been the last few years. It's the style has changed. I'll tell you what else is what I'm wearing right here. Okay. Just a second. I'm gonna flip this back to
Pete. You got someone from Nova Scotia in the chat room.
Hello from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Home of Jason Eisner, creator of Dark Side of the Ring, right there.
Maybe that's him.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Type in the name here. Anyway, I lost. What was I saying? Oh, I stopped liking it quite a bit when it got to the point where I really thought they were. Although they always did, you just didn't see it. The owners are screwing everybody over, right? I can remember I never started like Bret Hart until all of a sudden Bret Hart became the bad guy, and it's not because they cheer for bad guys, but it's like it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. I like bad guys and the good guys pretty equal. It depends on the wrestler. Like, I was talking about King Kong Brody or Bruiser Brody that I think early on he was a bad guy, but when I was watching him, people just loved him. He was such a crazy character. And I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, to be honest, but he was so popular here.
Are you saying Piper?
Brody. King Kong Brody.
Oh, Bruiser.
Now here he was very popular.
Brody?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he never did anything that was like weaselly, nasty. He was just rough.
And that goes back to that story of he wouldn't go by Bruiser Brody in the NWA territory because of Dick the Bruiser. And that show that was on about him, that's kind of just the way he was. He was a very honorable guy, and he refused to screw over people.
Yep. He had integrity as a heel. He was supposed to be a heel.
He was supposed to be, but I think most people really loved him. He was just, he got those big furry boots, and he barked. He barked throughout the entire match. Remember?
Yes. Yeah. See, and I never saw him at the time. I never seen him since he was alive. I've seen clips and like when I watched the Dark Side of the Ring about Bruiser Brody, I learned more about him there than I'd ever known about him. I just knew from seeing him, but yeah, he never stopped the whole time. It was like, yeah.
Didn't he die? Wasn't he like 83 or I think it was really a long time ago when he died.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's been dead a long time. He missed the big heyday of it. He would have been great in the WWF.
Yes, he would have.
He would have been a big star. Yeah.
He had the physique. He was a massive. He was what? He was like 6'7", 6'8", wasn't he?
He was. He was just a huge dude, and he looked as scary as anyone you've ever seen.
Yeah, really.
From what they said on the documentary, he was like one of the nicest guys around. But he was tough. He wouldn't put up with anything, that's for sure. Speaking
of scary looking guys, hey Viking Stu, what's going on, buddy?
Stuart,
you would make a good wrestler. We've come to the conclusion that I want to see Lance. I'm going to beat you to it. Viking Stu versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Would you know who's who?
Well, that's just it. Give Stu a 2x4, and it's,
It would be like one guy wrestling himself. Can't tell who's who.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. What else got here? That could. Yeah. Piper and Jake Roberts. You're a very good point there, Lance. And it's very genuine. Those people are playing themselves. There's no cartoon really there. You think about that. Piper was cartoonish and was great in the cartoons because he was basically just a sarcastic smartass.
Yeah.
Because Roddy Piper was just a sarcastic smartass who had a great sense of humor and was tough, but he was himself. And Jake Roberts is just, that was Jake Roberts. Everything you saw about his personality, his attitude didn't change. His persona didn't change when he was a heel or when he was a face. It's just the way they sort of presented him as one way or the other. They manipulate the audience, but other people, it was just one extreme or the other.
Like George Animal Steel. Remember he was always a bad guy?
Yes.
But then towards the end of his career, everybody loved the guy because he was just crazy.
Yeah. But he acted the same way as he did, but they presented him in a different fashion.
Yeah. And I remember I asked you, I think it was off. I don't think we were doing a show or anything, but I asked you. I started wondering, I was like, did you ever see George Steele win a match? And I can't remember. Because he was so crazy, why would he ever even try to pin somebody?
He'd get disqualified. He'd eat the turnbuckle and then throw them into it and get disqualified every time. But people loved it.
I need to look that up because I just can't imagine him pinning somebody. Because he was just, his whole shtick was to be so crazy.
He obviously did, but not in my recent memories. Okay, per day. Brett's match at WrestleMania 13 with Stone Cold was awesome. To see how that was all orchestrated and the psychology used and how each guy flipped roles during the match. Amazing. You don't see that now. No, it is. It's phenomenal. And it was so complex at the time because it just earned a lot of respect for Steve Austin for what he went through, whether it was real or not, And Brett managed to take the run with that to turn even more difficult to do. He was a heel in the States and he was the massive face everywhere else in the world. Everywhere else in the world. It was like completely the opposite. That was kind of the heels in the States were the faces everywhere else. And it was I don't think we've ever seen that again. We've seen some places where people might have where wrestlers may be more popular in other areas than certain other areas, but never to such a degree as we saw in 1996 when that was all going on. Man, some of those guys are hated. Steve Austin, no. Shawn Michaels and the Generation X, they were hated outside of the States, loved in the States, and everybody else was the opposite. It was something to see. I don't think they'll ever do that again because I don't think he can really manipulate that well enough to have it happen. It just sort of, they were lucky to have that happen. No, that's just my opinion on it.
DJC mentioned George Animal Steele's green tongue, and he said that came from a match where he was eating something before a match, some kind of like a sucrete or something like that. And his entire tongue turned green, and he didn't know it until after the match, and someone said something to him. And he thought that was such a great idea. He would eat that same stuff before every match.
That's amazing. How would you ever think about something like that? It just sort of happened, and he ran with it. Smart.
I would like to see him like an old wrestling match where he wasn't the animal. He must have early on wrestled as like a regular wrestler. It's just so funny because he had the perfect look for a George the Animal Steele.
We can't send you right against Hacksaw Jim Duggan yet, Stu. We got another idea for you right here.
He's got to get through B. Arthur before he gets to.
That's right. Okay, Madison Heights, Michigan. So is that far from where you're from, DJC? Fairly close, right? I don't know what town you're actually in. I know you're in the Detroit area, but I'm sure you're not right. I'm sure you're from a community outside of Detroit. The green tongue, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Hopefully this is fun. I've had fun.
When he was wrestling it, when he was still teaching, I believe he only wrestled. I think he said he would wrestle in the summertime when he wasn't teaching. But then his whole persona really took off, and that's I think when he finally quit teaching. I had to go hit the like button, Pete.
Thank you. All right, so I'm trying to think of Stu. So wrestlers on the silver screen: Hulk Hogan, several movies; Andre the Giant, Princess Bride. Amazing. I thought he did such a fantastic job in that movie.
Yeah, he was good.
Huh? I know that's one of that's Stu. Like that's one of your favorite all-time movies, right, Stu? Princess Bride.
Steve Austin was in a what was that? Grown Ups 2, I think.
Was he?
Yeah.
No. Who?
Grown Ups 2?
Andre?
No. Steve Austin.
Oh. I all I remember is Steve Austin. What was it called? The Condemned or something like that?
And yeah, Roddy Piper was in some movies, I believe, right?
They Live. He was in They Live, which is, I love They Live. That's a great movie. Who else? Maybe The Rock? Been in a couple.
Did Stewart just say Hulk Hogan? Then he added a Hogan, like Colonel Klink.
Hogan. Colonel Klink. Yeah. There's an interesting movie. Okay, here we're going to tangent. Did you see the movie about what the hell is it called? About Bob Crane?
Yes.
Focus.
Yeah, something like that.
Worth watching. Okay, that's the whole point of the show. We're gonna go now and again.
Bob Crane was an interesting guy.
Yes. Yeah, really. George Steele played former wrestler Tor Johnson and Ed Wood.
Oh, wow.
All right, that's so cool because I can remember Tor Johnson was in, oh my God, what's it called? Plan 9 from Outer Space? And several other B movies like for Ed Wood back then. So when they did the movie Ed Wood, they brought in George Steele to play Tor Johnson. And I couldn't think of a better person to play him. Thank you. That's really good to know, Lance. That's cool.
Lance knows everything.
Was Austin in the Expendables? Yes, he was. I do remember that as well with all the big guys. And here we go. This is another one we should see. Where does that come from? Like DJC, like you have a chance.
Oh, Crow's leaving. See ya, Crow.
See ya, Crow. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's getting to be that time. We're pushing. What are we pushing here? We're pushing almost 2 hours. We'll sign off here very, very shortly. Well, right on. So we are going to have this the goal right now is every 2 weeks still, right, Jeff?
Yeah, because then are you still doing an interview?
I'm going to try to fill in every other Tuesday with an interview here and there. Maybe not too many. I'm going to have just even a chat with some guys who we don't, some guys from the chat. I've got some things lined up with like Brett Weiss and Paul Derminen from the Intellivisionaries podcast in the future. They're coming up in the next couple months. Going to get a couple other guys we all know into a little interview just to sit down and talk. Mr. Lance Jennings, I've said that. I've called you out before, just haven't set it up yet. So maybe in 2 or 3 weeks or whenever, sometime soon, we'll find out how much you know when the pressure's on. You're sitting in front of your camera, right? My guess is quite a bit more than me. Doesn't take much. Anyway, always good to have a goal. There you go. Oh. It's Roddy Piper and Jesse had a failed TV pilot cop show called Tag Team. I'd watch that. I love Jesse Ventura. I really do. I think he was incredible as a commentator. And then, do you remember he came back for that one SummerSlam, Jeff?
No.
Had he just finished his governor or was still in the process of running? But he left in bad terms with WWF. But he did come back and did one show with them, a SummerSlam, and I've got the DVD in here somewhere. I'll figure it's like 97 or maybe it's 07 or could even be later than that. I don't know. Anyway.
Do you remember his show, Conspiracy Theory?
I've never watched it.
They were fascinating.
I've never watched the show. Is it?
He did 2 or 3 seasons of it, I believe. They were all very interesting stories. Pretty much stories most people have heard about, but they actually did some investigation. It was really well done. I don't know. I don't think it's even on. I'm not sure if you can see it on TV anymore. Might be able to see it on YouTube.
Huh. I can remember listening to him on Howard Stern one time, and he was trying to talk Howard into running with him as the vice president.
I remember
And it was, I think it was promotion for this conspiracy theory show. Yeah. Oh, look at that, Lance. That pilot for Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura was on YouTube. You say was, meaning it's not anymore for sure, or maybe we'll still find it.
I'll have to look for that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Well, it is a couple hours in. I really enjoyed talking about WrestleMania IV today. We'll think of something else. Maybe we'll talk about more wrestling. Maybe we'll talk about some video games. Maybe we'll talk about Disney. I don't know.
Whatever we want.
We'll come up with something, whatever you guys want to talk about too. So take us wherever you want to take us. But for now, I really enjoyed looking back at WrestleMania IV. I'm going to say this right now too. At the end of the day, I loved WrestleMania IV at the time. But looking back, it is not a strong pay-per-view because the wrestling in it just isn't very good. But I really like the results for when it was. And yeah, that's at the end of the day, good history. Still got my set right here, my cassette. And I was glad, my God, I got put a little video or picture up on my YouTube page of getting out the video head cleaner and getting that all worked, cleaned up so I could watch it. But it ended up being pretty good. Halfway through, I stopped, had to clean the heads on it again. But it came out pretty good. So I'm glad that all these videotapes that I paid so much money for back in the day still work. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Night, guys.
Papa Pete.